You don't sound very sure.
Yes, I am. I am largely ready.
We're largely ready to start
I'm
recording.
largely ready.
The 11th, largely ready. Okay, well, I've actually already started recording. But
Oh my god.
who's going to do the intro then?
You do the intro this time. And I'll
Do you remember
next
how
time.
it goes? Is that why you don't want to
No.
do it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's crack on.
Oh.
Shut up.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Seriously, I need to do this intro. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 11th ever episode of the Last Resort podcast. The thing you listen to when the internet has nothing better to offer. You see, how did I remember that after? It's going to be almost 6 months. The last one was New Year's.
I mean, I basically don't remember it like the week after we did it last time. Like.
Well, yeah, true.
Let alone 6 months.
You couldn't remember after, but then I'm not sure if you just couldn't remember it or just couldn't say it. If that makes sense.
I think it was a little bit of both. Like I knew what it was, but like I didn't at the same time.
You couldn't pull it out live. That sounds like a weird Channel 4 show. Pull it out live.
I mean, Channel 4 wasn't what I was thinking of, but sure.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking, like after Naked Attraction on like a Saturday night at 2 in the morning. What people watch, but whatever. There would be a really good segue into the Tory leadership race there, speaking of Channel 4, but I think we should begin with admissions.
Oh, we should definitely.
Actually, first we should go we haven't recorded a podcast in ages because of exams, but now we've finished exams, so we're recording a podcast. So to our many fans who have probably been dying,
many millions of fans,
we're back to do this, whatever this is, and this will begin with admissions. Would you like to explain to all the little people what admissions is?
Alright, so yesterday, me and Sam went to go see a play in our local theatre.
Upper middle class.
Yeah, we're so upper middle class.
We took some.
But we went to the theatre, and when we saw a play called Admissions.
Can you remember the name?
Yeah. And it basically what it was about was a really liberal teacher. Or like not teacher, but like somebody who like was in admissions. Yeah, hence the name admissions. Who was trying to raise the number of people of colour in the school, and she became very conflicted when her son didn't get into Yale, but her friend who was a person of colour did, even though he got like he didn't get as good grades and extracurricular and all that. And it sparked this whole debate within the whole thing of whether or not he got in because he was a person of colour, etc., and it was just so amazing.
Very good.
Sam, do you want to tell them who is in said play?
Oh, okay. Well, so I've done some research, so now I now know the names of everyone in it. So of course the big one, okay. Alex Kingston played Sherry, who was like this main admission supervisor, who was like so. The runtime for the play is 90 minutes, and Kingston was on there from the very first line to the very last line. She didn't lose stage at all. And I actually watched a YouTube video of an interview with her on this morning on ITV, and she said that they managed to work in a lot of times where she drank and ate in the middle of it, so that her voice stayed like lubricated. Keep speaking. So all those times that they poured wine, there was a reason for that. Also, there was Sarah Hadland, who played Ginny, who was the mother of Alex's son's friend, and then Ginny and Sherry were also friends, and like the two families are friendly with each other. And then Margaret Lester played Roberta, who was another teacher at the school, trying to make a yearbook which was balanced and equally.
No, it was a prospectus.
Yeah, a prospectus. That was it. To encourage people to come to the school. And personally, I think I found the scenes with her the funniest. And the most enjoyable because they were kind of like a light reflection of the other stuff. Then also Ben Alderman played the young boy Charlie who didn't get into Yale, and he was one of the best in there, as he had like a 5-minute monologue at one point, where two other characters were just on the stage listening, and he was just speaking, getting angry, and then quiet, and it was really good. And then also Andrew Woodall played Bill, who was the father of Charlie. He was like a bit of a dick mostly, and was like, "You're a spoiled brat," and it's like, but he has emotions. Come on, empathise. But yeah, they were the five stars of it, and it was written by Joshua Harmon and directed by Daniel Alkin. And did you know it actually first appeared on the stage in the USA, and then they brought it over to Britain? And the guy who played Charlie has been in both productions. He migrated across with it.
Oh.
Fun fact for you.
So I assume he's American then.
Yes, and then I think the rest are just doing the
because the rest are British, just doing an American accent. Because I was going to say, because he was the only one who didn't have a like that kind of like American accent, because everybody else had a very similar accent that they put on,
like a sharp, like almost high pitch kind of like.
Yeah.
But his did sound.
But he had like an actual American accent.
Yeah, it sounded a lot like.
He was an amazing actor. I think
really good.
If I were to have gone into that play not knowing anybody, I think I would have been my favourite. I'd be like looking at it.
Yeah, stood out the most. And then also because he's so young as well, compared to the others who had like loads of experience than he. But then also he did do the play in the US, so I guess he's more experienced with the play itself. But it was very, very good. And also, so while researching this, I read some reviews after, as I thought, let's get a discussion up. And one person reviewing it said that they gave it 3 out of 5 stars and said that it felt like a lecture rather than a conversation. What do you think about that?
So I wouldn't agree to the T with that, because I feel like if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't a topic that you were really interested in, I could see it becoming very almost boring, because if you're not interested, you're not paying attention, it becomes like a lecture kind of thing. But however, I think that if you went in knowing what it was about, and if this is something that you enjoy, and I think for me personally that it's a topic that I enjoy to talk about, I think it's important to talk about, and so therefore I think that every moment was grasping. I think there was a moment that I became bored.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, and it very much was the purpose of this play is to present all these questions to us, and that was the main driving force. And I think that the fact it was a comedy worked really well, because then it meant that they could do that and ask these questions and focus on that topic without it feeling like a drag or feeling like they're pushing an agenda, because they made fun of it a bit. So personally, I would kind of disagree a bit with that review, but I get where they're coming from.
And what I liked about you said to me afterwards that what you liked about it was that it didn't actually answer any questions. It just opened a dialogue.
All the questions, which then meant that when everyone left, everyone was talking to each other about it, and just whatever. And
then sorry, go on.
You go.
I was just going to say, when we excitingly met Alex Kingston out at the stage door, she did as well. Alex was very
she was
really
talking about it.
Yeah, she was very I hope this opens a dialogue between when she was talking to Sam and I. She said, I hope that you guys can talk about this now, because I think it's important and it needs to be talked about. And it's I think it's amazing that it's more than just a role to her. It's just I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and then so when I was walking home, I was thinking about it loads, and then I kind of thought there's this whole thing about what's the right thing to do in that situation, where you spend your life trying to balance out equality and stuff, but then when it's personal to you, you might cheat the system and pull on the strings. And then is there actually a right at all? Whatever path you go down, there's an argument that you're wrong. So maybe it's not a case of finding the right, it's finding the most not wrong, if that even exists.
And I think that no matter, I think this shows this, that no matter how like liberal you are, that you'll always have like an undeniable white privilege.
Without even realising it.
Without even even if it's not your fault, we will always have like white privilege. And I think that it's strange that when white people are given more opportunities, it's just seen as normal. Whereas if somebody who wasn't white was given an opportunity, all of a sudden it's wrong because they were only given it because they are a person or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's just interesting. I think that all of a sudden it's a whole different thing. Because why couldn't he have gotten into Yale rather than him, even if it like his grades are I don't know. I think that
it's like such a confusing and difficult topic, it's avoided a lot, which is why it's so good that the play was just like blatant and like upfront about it, and it really didn't shy away from it, which I think is something the world kind of needs. So another review I read, which I agree with more, said that it lays bare the hypocrisy of the liberal left, and I feel like that sums it up a bit better. It's just tearing away all of it. Yeah. So it's a very good play, and I would suggest people go see it. But it's only running for another week until the 22nd of June. So unless you
wait, do you know where it's going?
It's going somewhere quite near to where we are. So
okay.
There's probably a chance that people could get tickets and travel a bit to go see it. It's not too far away, I don't think. But it's very good. And then, so another thing that I realised after I left is let's say you go to the cinema and see a film, and you're like, oh, I love that film so much, I can't wait to get it on DVD and watch it again. I left and realised I'm never going to be able to see that again. Because it's like a one-time thing, and I'm going to have to try and remember it as well as I can. Because
I think
all those performances, I'm never going to be able to witness it exactly the same again as it was.
But I think that's like the beauty of going to see a play is like you have to experience it in the moment, and you really have to take it all in because you're not going to see it again.
Yeah, and really absorb it all, and then also
although it would be really cool to see it over and over again, just to analyze everything. I love doing that.
It would be so cool if they recorded every performance and you could download a copy of
like a Netflix special.
Yeah.
But they do with comedy shows and stuff.
Yeah. Also, I really like the way that the transitions between scenes, you kind of have to imagine it a bit because of the way that two characters would be talking, and then the character for the next scene would walk on before that scene ends and just stand there, and then the other would leave. I thought that was really cool.
My favourite example of that was when Charlie was arguing with Cherry, and then they were just arguing about how spoilers he pulled all his applications for uni.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "What's for tea?"
Oh yeah. And
then she goes, "I was thinking about getting some salmon out the freezer." and then the dad walks in.
Yeah. Oh, it's a really, 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 really good play. And even if you could just get the screenplay and read it, do that it's really good. But we also have some other stuff to talk about in this episode. So, are you happy for me to roll on to the next topic?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'm going to begin this topic with a question for you, which is, as of now, who do you think is the most well-paid presenter at the BBC? Think of all the presenters. Who do you think it is?
I don't know any of their names.
What kind of show do you think they put? If you can think of the person, what kind of show do they present?
Well, possibly. I don't know.
Think sport.
Sport.
It's a man who does sport presenting.
I don't know names at all, but does he do a specific sport?
Mostly, yeah, I think. Which would be
Football?
Yeah. What does he look
Yeah.
like? Can you like imagine the person?
No, I
His
don't know.
name rhymes with Larry Bineker and
What?
begins and begins with G.
Gary?
Gary Lineker.
I
You know
don't know
who
who
that
that
is?
is.
Google Gary
No.
Lineker and you'll
Um,
recognise him. He presents like Match of the Day or something, I think. Um,
I don't know why I would know that.
okay, well, I'm trying to make this a bit, interesting.
Okay, okay.
And now, given that
Oh,
this,
I do know him, yeah.
okay, good, you do know who he is, and so the Prime Minister earns, on average, 149,000 pound a year. Yeah, so that's like
Mm.
150,000 a year, and the average wage in the UK for a year is £35,000. How much do you think Gary Lineker earns in a year? The Prime Minister earns 150,000, and the average wage is 35,000 a year.
200.
£200,000 a year.
Yeah, because I'm
That's a yes.
assuming that I'm assuming that the shock factor will be more with that he earns more than the prime minister.
Okay, he actually earns 1.7 million a year,
Jesus
which is a
Christ!
lot. And then the next lowest of him at the BBC is Graham Norton, who earns 600,000 a year, and the highest earning woman is Claudia Winkleman, who earns 370,000 a year. And the reason why I've just given you that little quiz is you may or may not have heard recently that they're scrapping the free TV license for over 75s,
I heard about that. Yeah.
which was introduced by Gordon Brown in the 2000s. And a big argument. So like a lot of people are like attacking the BBC over this and saying like cut the pay for these like really big people and all this stuff. So I thought I'm going to research into this and try and find out the argument.
Mm.
And actually, after doing a little bit of research, so basically making over 75s pay for this license isn't actually the BBC's fault, as it's a thing that the government said in 2015 that by 2020 the BBC would have to take responsibility for this TV license of the over 70s, and the government knew at the time that the BBC would have to scrap that because it would cost the BBC 745 million to fund the over 75s TV license being free, and
Jeez.
reducing all these big stars' income to 150,000 a year would only make 25 million. That's like nothing compared to
Yeah.
that. So his whole argument about the BBC's evil is actually kind of wrong. And
Mm.
I was trying to ask you, what do you think about over 75s having to pay for their TV license?
I think it's very. You have to think about situations, and I think that not every person over 75 needs to like have it for free.
Yeah.
But I think it's very situational. I think that some people don't have a lot of money, whereas like some people do.
Yeah, so it
Like
really depends on
that's
the
just luck.
person and the
Yeah. So
context.
if that person can afford to, and I know it won't be perfect. So things like this are never perfect, but I think you could apply to be able to have a free pass.
Mm.
And if you can prove that paying for paying for it will, uh, like, for lack of a better word, burden you, um, then you could receive one. But I
Yeah.
think it's very situational.
Yeah, I really agree with that. There will be some people who like have like enough money and could afford to, and just for some context, it costs £154 a year, which is 42p a day, which 42p a day seems that's not that bad, but given that for a year's worth of Netflix with one screen it's £72 a year, and a
Mm.
year's worth of Now TV entertainment is £96 a year. So it is quite a lot, but then at the same time, four screens on Netflix is £120 a year, and for the BBC, you do get like all the channels, all the radio, iPlayer, loads and loads of stuff. So
Well,
like,
well, yeah, but I think that it, I think it's like a little different.
as in paying for the BBC compared to other
Yeah,
streaming, yeah. As it's like the proper big.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think that, and also because you say 4 screens is worth this or whatever, but lots of like older people like live alone.
Yeah, and just need that like one. Yeah.
And I think that it doesn't solve everything, but I think that having the TV and having the BBC primarily, because it's one of the biggest things out there, is helps people who like people who are satisfied, old people who live alone, don't see people
Yeah,
very often.
that's a big argument for it.
I think that people will die earlier if they can't afford things like that because they don't have anything to do.
Yeah, and they're just so isolated, and like that's like one of the big things people are saying. So like, there's a petition which has got over 500,000 signatures to try and change, keep it free, because it's a very isolated and lonely time when you're old and like you can't get out and leave the house, and so the TV is like their one connection to the outside world, which is a big argument for keeping it.
And I think if they do get rid of it periodically, not periodically, just like period, they should at least try and do something about.
Yeah, for those cases that really need it.
Yeah, and so I think they should still cut like people's wages, because I think it's I think some people make unnecessarily like large amounts of money, and they should use that money to try and help people who they have been helping previously. It's like donate to charities that try and cure loneliness with older people.
Yeah, because and then so Ben Fogle, who is a guy who works for the BBC, has actually donated 1 year of his salary to try and fund people who need a TV license, which I think is like, well done, Ben Fogle. Round of applause for you. And like that's like the kind of thing that needs to be done more,
Yeah, I agreed. But imagine making so much money that you can just give away a whole salary.
Yeah, but then, like, I'm really pleased that it's someone like Ben Fogle who's earning that much because he is giving it away. So, yeah, but so like when I heard that that like they were going to have to pay, my immediate reaction was like, okay, well, like fair enough, they have to pay. But then after hearing the argument for like, but actually they're really vulnerable and lonely, and like I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. Like, some cases should definitely get it free.
Like, because my my grandma, who lives in Wales, she lives in rural Wales. She doesn't leave the house ever unless somebody comes and sees it, and I think that without having TV, it would like
it just like block her in.
Yeah, and I think that I know she's not like short on money, and she'd probably end up paying TV license. That's fine, but I know that some people, and like my mum used to work at like a care home place, and I know that a lot of people there, some people who are there not paying for it but are there because they have to be, wouldn't be able to like afford those kind of things. And I think that the older people who still live in their own houses and don't get to see people ever, I think it could be very damaging.
So it's really like a medical prescription almost to have a TV license to help, rather than just have a TV license. So I think that there is some like funding or something for like extreme cases who really need it. I didn't look into that as much. But
that's not enough, though, is it?
Yeah,
like
because there will be a lot
cases.
of people, who are going to lose out. Yeah. And then another question I want to put to you about this thing about TV license is that when we go to uni next year, or like whatever, like full-time students who go to uni have to pay for a TV license to watch like BBC in their uni hall, whatever. Do you think it's right that students should have to pay, given that they're meant to be like a full-time student? Just because they moved out of home and are staying in a uni hall for the term?
I think maybe yes and no. I think that maybe we should have like a discounted version. But also I think that we talk as very privileged people
Yeah.
being able to go to university. Because
Yeah.
some people, even though we have like student loans and all that, some people just don't have the opportunities or the money to be able to go to university. And I think that outright saying things like we shouldn't have to pay for our TV licenses at university is coming from a very privileged standpoint.
Yeah, true. Fair point. And then also like we get a student loan, so like some of that can go towards it and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. And then so also something about like I'm like students, but not like uni students now, just like students from the age of like 16 and 17, like after you turn into like an adult in the eyes of like train companies and things. So one thing that's always bugged me is the fact that pensioners get like a free bus pass. But if you're like 14 and you can't drive because you're not 17 and you're at school and like you've got to pay for the bus and you have like no like income mostly like and you can't drive at all, but you've got to pay for a bus to get somewhere. And really, I think that like people up until the age of like 17 or 18 should be able to get like a bus pass.
So there is, if you live, I think outside like a specific area, you do get a free bus pass. If you live, I'm not sure if it's if you. I think it's if you live. I can't remember if it's if you live outside a specific area or within a specific area. I think it's within a specific area. You do get a free bus pass. Or I'm not sure if it's that or if it's it. I think it's you either get that or you get like a place on the school bus.
So you get something.
But it is very technical because we've tried and we've always been like a few meters or like miles or whatever out of like getting the bus pass, which is fine. Like we pay for it now. It's not an issue. I'm not complaining. But I know our mate Ross doesn't get a free bus pass.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that he should.
Yeah. As it's like it's kind of a difficult thing. As like I guess that if like your parents are willing to pay for it, then like and like they can afford to, then great. But it's that kind of thing of like you like it can reach a point where like you literally have no way of getting anywhere, and it's I don't know. And like
I think that then becomes very isolating at a young age as well.
Yeah, because you like your friends are going out and doing something, but then you can't get there unless you walk like for like an hour or something, which like you can do, and like people do, but I don't know.
It's not always practical.
Yeah, and then sometimes I think like as soon as people become a pensioner, they get like a free bus pass. But quite a few of them can probably still like drive and things like that. And like I get that when you get older and older, it's more important to have a free bus pass because you have to use the bus a lot. But I think that like straight away, it's like I don't know, it's another like case by case thing, and it gets so complicated. Which is what which is so like these like big blanket rules are like important, but they're also quite flawed because they don't look at that specific.
But I think that the people in charge of these kind of things have never been in the situations that the public have been in. I think that a lot of people who are in charge of these kinds of things have never experienced poverty. They've never experienced isolation or anything like this, and so they just don't care almost. I think it's the same with like politics and politicians. Sorry. They're in charge of the public, but they don't know what the majority of the public have gone through. They've never lived on or under the poverty line, and they'd probably give up after a day of being on or under the poverty line. But yet they're in charge of us. Yeah, they're in charge of the whole country, and they make decisions for us.
That's actually a very good segue, if you'll allow it to be, into the Tory leadership contest.
Yes.
About politicians. So, did you watch the Channel 4 Britain's Next PM?
I did not know.
Oh well, it was intense, and it was very Channel 4, if you get what I mean. It was very like kind of like cheap and like biased and like attacking, whatever. But just for some background here, guys. So we began with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We began with the 10 candidates, and then we had the vote on Thursday, was it? Like Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Tuesday, where Leslie Harper and McVeigh didn't get the 17 votes needed, and then Matt Hancock dropped out. So now we are left with, in this very exciting Tory leadership race, Boris Johnson, Jeremy Hunt, Michael Gove, Dominic Raab, Sajid Javid, and Rory Stewart. And I just watched this thing on Channel 4, the debate, and it was very intense. And 5 of the 6 went, but Boris Johnson didn't.
Oh.
So do you think Boris Johnson should have gone to this Channel 4 debate and answered the questions the public had?
I think that any time that we don't have to see Boris Johnson's a win. But
Good point.
However,
but, to be fair, he can be quite funny to watch, like, from point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it's hard because I really don't like him. But yes, I think he should have. If I'm thinking of this of a take away like the fact that they're all Tories or whatever.
Yeah.
I think every candidate should be there so that everybody can take into because he knows that he's I hate to say this, but I know he knows that he's popular.
Yeah, getting 114 votes.
And it's like he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's already got all these votes.
Yeah, and so I heard this quote somewhere, which is the only person who can defeat Boris Johnson is Boris Johnson. So he doesn't want to do these debates, as he doesn't want to say something stupid and cock it all up, and so he's just hiding and hoping that in his bunker that he'll manage to survive and eventually win. But do you have any passionate views on Brexit and what you think should happen on October the 31st going on?
I think we should scrap the whole idea.
Scrap it all. Second referendum.
Yeah, I think we should have a second. I think it's unfair that we haven't had a second referendum. But I think that the more that I've looked into politics or Brexit specifically, I've realised that it is still very split. The country is still very split. And I think that because I immerse myself very much around the politics that I agree in, because I just can't stand other people. I can't stand the being around, because to a certain point it's fine, but then after that it does just become bigotry or whatever. So I just try to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
However, the more I have immersed myself in politics and Brexit. I've realised that even though that what I've been experiencing, every single person I ask is very anti-Brexit, whereas if you were to talk to I don't know, the older people in where we live, they'd be very pro-Brexit, and I think that still not enough of the people our age are going out and voting.
Which really annoys me.
Lots of people have all these opinions, and they spurt off about how bad Brexit is, but they don't go out and they don't vote. And that's why. Well, first of all, that's why we lost last time, and that's why I think that if we had another referendum, there is a high chance that we'd lose again, because we don't just go out and vote. My friend hasn't registered to vote. She's been 18 since the start of December. She hasn't registered to vote.
Oh, that's so annoying.
And I keep sending her the link to register to vote, and she won't register. And I think it's just, I hate it, because it not only because you can't talk about politics, you're not allowed to complain, you're not allowed to do any of that if you didn't vote. You're not allowed to be part of these conversations if you didn't vote. I think, in my very humble opinion, and I think that also specifically women, I think it's awful when women don't vote, because people threw themselves under horses. And people threw themselves under horses and put their lives on the line so that women can vote. And you just can't be bothered.
You really should. And it's like during the European elections when I was speaking to people who were 18 and they were like, I'm not going to bother. And I'm like, do you know what I would give to be able to vote here? But I'm not 18 yet. And it's just
Mm.
it did, and then but then like the worst people are the people that just aren't interested at all. So like
I
who
don't,
just don't bother doing anything and just go like, oh, I don't really care. And it's just like,
I
but
don't
take
understand that.
oh my, this is like the whole country depends
Like,
on these votes,
but
and
the thing is, like, everything is politics.
yeah,
Just everything is like
that's at the top,
you complain,
and it,
yeah, but you complain about like bus passes, you complain about
mm,
this or that. That's all politics. That's being
yeah,
controlled by the government. And
yeah,
if you voted for so and so, it would probably be different.
different, yeah. But then also it was really weird because like watching that debate, all five of them were Tories and were like the whole conversation was like, how are we going to deliver Brexit? And
Mm.
it wasn't until speaking to you just now that I kind of remembered. Actually, there's a bigger debate around this. It's not just this debate in the Tories. I completely forgot that there was also a debate of like Tories versus Labour versus Liberal Democrat versus Brexit
Mm.
Party. And I'm just like, there's just debates happening inside debates, and we now have to wait 6 weeks to find out who the leader of one of the players in this debate is. And, oh, it's just a great big nightmare.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
If there was a total reset, right?
Okay.
Largely unlikely and never going to happen. We have whatever.
Uh-huh.
But if there were a total reset and we all had to vote for who we wanted in charge,
Uh-huh.
and this was after you turned 18,
Okay.
who would you vote for?
Liberal Democrat.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely. And
But I feel like it could be a throwaway vote, which is annoying because
yeah, but
I always vote for Lib Dem because
mm,
I believe in their ideals.
mm,
But I feel like voting for them would just
not
put
change
the
anything
Tories in charge. It
for the
would put the
first person
Tories in
votes.
charge because I didn't vote
Labour.
say Labour, which
Yeah.
would get the Tories out of
Yeah. But then,
power.
recently, in both the local elections and the European elections, like the Tories and the Brexit Party have been above Labour and Conservative. So, like, Brexit might be terrible, but one thing it is doing is kind of tearing apart, the hierarchy of our political parties
Mm.
and like restructuring the whole thing. And like, I if there was a general election really soon, which annoyingly there probably won't be, but well, unless they don't deliver Brexit, then we'll see what happens. But it would be really interesting to see the results and to see if the results of a general election would be similar to the results of the local and European elections that just happened. As
Mm.
like that could lead to a really weird situation where no one has a big enough majority at all, and you end up with weird kind of coalitions. But yeah,
Because so far I voted twice in my life.
mm-hmm.
So far I voted Lib Dem every time.
Good, well done.
And I think I will continue to,
Yeah.
unless there's like something specifically.
Like
But I
yeah,
think yeah, but I think that I don't think with Corbyn in charge, I don't think I would ever vote for Labour. Period.
neither.
Even if Lib Dem was a throwaway vote, because he's
Yeah,
just said such awful things
he
that
really don't
he's
like it.
basically a Tory
Yeah,
in
he's
my
just
mind, because he said some terrible things.
yeah.
And I think that
All
it's
of the
just, I don't
leaders at
know.
the moment are kind of like we got Trump, May, and Corbyn, and it's like but
Well,
things are
because
changing.
I think this alternate universe of Trump, Boris, and Putin being in charge is coming true, and that's so mad because that's something you go, Trump, Boris, and Putin, or whatever. But it's actually happening, and I think that's mad because everybody was joking. Because before Trump came in charge, people were
Yeah.
always like
Imagine
making
if Trump
jokes and
got
being
in.
like, ha ha ha, Trump's going to be in charge, and then it had,
Before
and then
Brexit,
people.
it was the
Yeah,
same.
exactly. And then people started going, "Oh, I'm getting scared now."
Yeah, and then it happened. But then, like next year, we get elections in the US, which are going to be really exciting. Because
Because
imagine if,
there's lots and lots of people that at the moment in the polls are doing a lot better than Trump are.
so fingers crossed, 2020 will be.
Because I have a countdown on my phone to the end of Trump's term. 1 year and 7 months.
1 year, so it's gonna be good. Can't wait to stay up into watching it live at 6 in the morning or whatever, finding the results. It's gonna be good. But anyway, the Tory leadership thing. There's another vote on Tuesday, and then a debate on BBC on Tuesday evening. By which point, we might even have our final two by then. And once we have two, it then goes to the membership vote rather than Parliament voting, which will be where Boris Johnson needs to try and get the support of the people, not just the PMs. So we'll see. But we've been recording for almost 45 minutes now.
Yeah, man.
It's quite a chunky episode.
Yeah, it's been a good one as well. It's been a bit different.
Yeah, and it's also because all those other 10 we had Doctor Who to begin with. But this time, we began with a play. We've gone up market. Not Doctor Who, but
we've gone. Well, but technically though, we've just followed. We've just followed Doctor Who. Really. How just to finish off. Excited are we for 6 months' time when Doctor Who starts up again?
6 months' time, Doctor Who. And
I think.
No,
go on, sorry.
Go on, no, you go.
As I say, if I go to uni, if I end up going to uni, I am going to, if there isn't one already, I'm going to start a club, a Doctor Who
Society.
And I think I'm gonna set up like group watches and stuff. We're gonna watch it every night, every time it's on. We're gonna go and we'll put it on like a projector on the wall or whatever. And we're gonna... I think.
Oh my god! I think that the thing I'm looking forward to most about uni is just being surrounded by people my age and trying to find people who and doing massive group watches and okay, so just imagine the I'm a Celeb final, watching that with 10 to 20 other people at uni. It'd be so intense. And hopefully that actually happens, but who knows? In 6 months we might be in our own dorm rooms. This is so boring. But
but if that ends up happening, if we end up doing big group watching and stuff, we should just call each other and watch it like that.
Yeah.
Do it like a live stream for the podcast.
Oh my god! And then we should do a Club Payment live stream at some point because that's the content everyone wants.
It is the content everybody wants. We're gonna set up a. We're
gonna get all the 5-year-olds watching.
We're gonna set up a Twitch account, I think, and we're gonna do some live streams. It might turn into some other games as well, like Minecraft, because we're nerds.
Yeah, but and also I think I'm gonna re-download The Sims for my laptop, which is going to be exciting for this summer. Yeah. Podcast is back, guys.
Yeah, man.
Hope
the big excite.
You'll be listening. And that's about
all 10 of you.
Wait, I thought it was 4.
No, it's probably 4.
Yeah, I think
it's
4 and 2 of them. No, it's 5 and 2 of them are us, and one's the So there's 2 people that aren't us that are subscribed. But we'll get some publicity out. You can leave some of those little cards around social tomorrow. We'll see. But
I didn't talk about my apprenticeship.
Oh no. Talk about it next week after you've gone to the day.
Oh, after. Okay.
And then we'll have some, a lot to talk about it. But we better stop. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much for listening. We appreciate it. We appreciate all 4 of you.
Oh, well, no, 2 of you. It's gonna, and get ready for the summer ahead. Or, who needs Love Island when you have a last resort? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, man.
We should probably say bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.